Hello my friends and welcome back to Italy, a place to love YouTube channel. So today, as usual, as Saturday, I'm doing my one-to-one in front of the camera, where I'm talking of a subject chosen by me during the week, and let me say, to talk about the things that are also happening in Italy. As you know, anyway, this channel is talking about Italy and always about Italian things related. Now, from where to start? First of all, this week it happened something particular. I mean, something that many of you know now that I'm gonna mention. And so, let's start. I took some notes simply to not forget what I'm gonna talk about. So let's start and let's start talking about the Jubilee. Okay, so these events, this event that takes part every 25 years. Now, I don't know many of you are familiar with this event. Now, I'm not particularly familiar with this type of things, so I just find out, for example, it was Christmas Eve, I think, the 24th, when the Pope opened the Holy Door. Now, I'm not, as I said, I'm not very familiar with these things, so I might make some mistakes, and if any of you know more about this, don't be shy to write down in the comment sections, where my mistakes are. Anyway, I find out that the Pope opened this holy door. Now, I don't know the meaning of these things, but basically, anyway, I follow. There was the function. Anyway, the Pope celebrate the mass, and so on. Anyway, then yesterday, by coincidence, anyway, I was watching YouTube, and just to understand a bit more about what the Jubilee was about. Anyway, I find out one channel, one very interesting channel, run by an Italian guy in English language, and I would highly recommend to all my subscribers to have a look to this channel and to subscribe to his channel. He's a very nice guy. The name of the channel is How to Italy. He has a logo very similar to mine. Maybe some of you are already subscribed to his channel. Anyway, he's an Italian professor of history. But anyway, I was quite amazed by his English anyway, and for me it was nice to follow his channel anyway. He has good videos. He is focused more on the Italian history, so if you want to know about the Italian history in English language, his channel is doing quite well, and so How to Italy, that's the name of his channel. Okay, so I was investigating a bit about the Jubilee, and so I Google it a bit just to understand what it's about. And so I find out, for example, that the Jubilee, what is the meaning of the Jubilee? Um, so the Jubilee used to take part every 50 years. So was an event that in the Vatican. Okay, then we should spend a few words about the Vatican. So in the Vatican, they used to celebrate this event every 50 years. Now it's changed. Don't ask me when it was changed anyway. So now they don't do it anymore every 50 years, but they do it every 25 years. And also some special occasions that, again, I don't know when these special occasions are occurring, so I don't know. Maybe it happened already a few years ago, and so I wasn't simply aware about this event. And but what was the real meaning then? Anyway, I shortly had a look, and for example, what was common during this Jubilee back in the days. For example, I read that when it was every 50 years, so were debts, for example, were cancelled. that was one of the reasons, for example, why I mean, for sure there is a religious reason why they were making, and I don't know the religious reason, okay? But for example, I read that during the Jubilee, they used to cancel debts, for example, to people if someone has pending debts, uh, not people who were paying back their debts, people who stopped paying, so they were kind of forgiven. Um, then, for example, was also connected with the lands. For example, in the year of the Jubilee, the farmers were resting more than half of the land. So kind of the lands had time, you know, to recover, to restore, to get the minerals, because if you harvest every year, you might get poor, you might get anyway, the land might get poorer. So that's why it's also nice, good to have a rest for the land. And then, for example, also some confiscated lands were given back to the owners, to the peasants, and so on, maybe for some fiscal reason, for some revenue reasons were taken. Anyway, so this was about what they were doing during the Jubilee, okay? But now I want to enter a bit in the topic about the Jubilee, what is bringing now this Jubilee to Rome, okay? And why it's important? Because in the last 2 weeks, in the last month, for example, that I was following, because they were talking on the news nearly every day, the Jubilee is going to happen, blah, 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 and so on. So they were discussing, for example, now, because I'm talking about properties, so the problem with properties related problems with the properties nowadays in Rome. Okay, why? Because it seems like that this event is gonna bring to Rome an enormous amount of tourists, for example, and I believe so. So, for example, in these days, I saw that there are a lot of tourists, for example, in Rome. And so I believe, for example, that the price of the hotels, prices of the hostels, price of B&B, prices of Airbnb are quite skyrocketing, are going very high. So on the news, they were always talking about now it's gonna be a problem for people who wants to visit Rome. They have to book 6 months in advance, 1 year in advance. For example, now the Jubilee, I think is gonna last 1 year. So from the moment they started this event a few days ago, it's probably gonna last till the end of 2025. And so basically for the rental market, for the property market, this event is gonna, okay, first of all, it's gonna bring a lot of money to the landlords, first of all. It's gonna bring money to the owners of Airbnbs. It's gonna bring money to people who have hostels and the owners of the hotels. So I see it anyway as a big business around this event. So obviously nowadays everything is a bit money related, okay, more than religious or spiritual, okay. But probably any time in the history the Jubilee happened, anyway, for sure a lot of people were going to Rome, and for sure people from, maybe now from all over the world, because the world became smaller since the moment we have planes. Probably if we go back to 100 years ago or 200 years ago, maybe people from UK or people from Ireland or people from Germany or anywhere, because we are talking about anyway the Catholic religion is an event for Catholics. So they were probably traveling for days before they were arriving to Rome. If I think, for example, that Ireland or Poland, these are two very Catholic countries, and for sure, people from these countries wanted to join this event. And so they were traveling. Try to imagine 200 years ago to travel from Dublin or from Ireland or from Warsaw in Poland or Krakow, and traveling, it, first of all, was expensive. And second, it was taking a lot of time, was a long journey. And third, always been a big business for people from Rome. I mean, for people. Anyway, if we analyze now from the commercial point of view of this event, what do we understand? That now everything is selling. It's selling. So there's a big business behind now this event. I mentioned obviously all the accommodation industry, but not only, for example, the restaurants, all the food industry that they're gonna. Anyway, first of all, Rome always has a lot of tourism. I mean, I think in Italy is the city that is most visited. I don't know how many millions of people, maybe 15, 20 million people a year are visiting Rome, and Rome is 4 million people. So can you imagine 4, 5 times the amount of people that are living in Rome are visiting this city? So there's a big, big business, obviously. Nothing wrong, because anyway, we need money to survive. There are a lot of people who have businesses nowadays in Rome. But anyway, it's taking all the many sectors, many industry levels, so the food, the souvenirs, for example, but even the clothes. I believe that a lot of people now are going and visiting shops, for example, maybe when they have spare time, they love to have walks in the city. Now, I believe that many of you probably have been to Rome. I've been several times. It's a lot. I love it as a city full of history. For people who love history, Rome cannot be missed. Also for religious people, for example, cannot be missed to visit Rome at least once in a life. Anyway, so going back to the property business, now there is a big, big warning, kind of. Okay, the first warning was stay away from Rome. If you're not interested in this type of event and you want to visit Rome, stay away, because you're gonna be sued, you're gonna be robbed by the price that you're going to pay, for example, to spend 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights, a week, for example, in Rome. So in the news, they were actually saying, so basically, if you're not interested in this type of event, stay away from Rome, maybe visit other cities, even if, for example, it's not affecting only Rome, because this event is also affecting, let me say, an area, a quite big area around Rome. I would say maybe 100, 150, even 200 kilometers from Rome. So all the prices of the accommodations, of hotels, Airbnb, hostels, any sort of accommodation is going up in price. So even, I believe that even probably Naples, that is around 200 kilometers far from Rome, is affected by this, because some people might say, okay, let's accommodate in Naples, then we take the train, maybe it's cheaper to find an accommodation in Naples or other cities, other towns around Naples. So it's a business, it's bringing money to the town, so there is a kind of conveniency. But then there is the dark side of this. And for example, this is a problem, this is an issue that I was actually following Spain. I like Spain, I'm following quite often video from Spain, and the complaint that they had in Barcelona, for example, that, or other cities in Spain, that, for example, tourists, now the tourism industry is big enough. Okay. Now, if I'm the owner of a property in Rome, for example, why should I rent this property for a long term? In Italy, when we are renting properties, by the law and by the contracts are quite long. I have to make a video about the rental market. It's complicated. It's a bit complicated. For example, in Ireland or in England or in Holland, for me was normal to have 1 year contract, for example. Here in Italy is not very common. Maybe because the landlords from one side wanted to be sure that the property is rented not only for a short term, and so there is 2+2, 4+4, so kind of you're gonna rent for 8 years. But now the landlords, I don't know, because the tourism industry is increasing, they're kind of stepping back, and not only in Italy, I'm saying in all the big cities, maybe even in Berlin or in London or in Paris. So basically the landlords over there, they're stepping back from long-term rents, and they're going in favor of this short term. So then we enter in the topic of the Airbnb, for example, the bed and breakfast, these short rents that obviously are bringing a higher return. If I'm renting a property now in Rome for 600, 700, 1,000 euro a week, I might probably make 4,000 euro in a month. And I believe that now if I want to rent for a week in Rome, for sure I won't be able to find anything under 500 euro. Then, if I'm a landlord, if I have a property in Rome, and if I do a long rent contract, and maybe I rent for 1,000 euro a month or 1,500, but then I do a short rent and I can make 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, even 4,000. I believe now probably they are making even 4,000 euro a month for one apartment. Obviously, the landlords are thinking about their own pockets. But this is causing problem then to people from Rome, and in the news they were saying that, for example, now people who are living in Rome and, for example, they are in need of an accommodation, they have to leave Rome. They are pushing, but the discussion is that these people who are living now in Rome and they have to find another property to rent, they have to probably move in the outskirts of Rome, so maybe 15, 20, 30, 50 kilometers away from Rome to have a cheaper price. And then that if you work in Rome, that might bring you to longer, it takes longer to commute to your job. So it's gonna create a certain amount of problems, this Jubilee. Again, these things always happen. Now, it says that it started from the Bible. Somewhere in the Bible is written to kind of celebrate every 50 years this event. Then, when we are talking about the Bible, for me, we should always discuss if we are talking about the Old Testament or the New Testament. Now, the Bible is the Old and the New Testament all together. That's the Bible. But sometimes there is a bit of confusion. Just to mention, for example, the New Testament just as the Bible. No, the Bible is both of them, the Old and the New Testament together. Anyway, now, after this, what do I want to say? I want to say that, anyway, it's gonna be a problem for people to find a place to rent, so stay away from Rome. And then, anyway, what's the relationship, for example, of the Italian people with the religion, for example, with the Catholic religion? Are Italian people very religious, for example? Now, personally, I'm not going to the church. obviously I was born from a Catholic family, I was baptized. Anyway, it's part of my culture. It's also saying that Italians, we are affected by the Vatican and by the Catholic religion, even if we don't practice, for example. Anyway, I'm not practicing, that's the correct word. I consider myself a spiritual person, so I respect, for example, all the religions. So for me, all the religions are welcome. I don't make one better than another. Uh, Italian nowadays, anyway, probably like in many other Catholic countries. Um, so anyway, the young Italians are a bit like me. So for example, then I don't know if I should say it's a shame, it's a disgrace. This I don't know, okay? Obviously, if you go to a church in Italy, mainly you find only elderly people. But again, I want to recommend the channel of this guy, How to Italy, because in his video, in his latest video, he was talking about the relationship between Italian people and the religion and the Catholic Church. Anyway, so this year in Rome is gonna be anyway a big celebration. So now people are traveling, for example, from all over the world. So you might have a lot of people from all Europe, all the Catholic, all the Catholics of Europe, all the Catholics of North America, all the Catholics are of South America, all the Catholics of Africa, Asia, Australia. So from all the continents, now they're coming. Then, for example, which one are the most religious people in the world, for example? I can say, this is just my opinion, for example, that each time I look at the Vatican in the news, for example, every Sunday we have the television showing the function of the Pope in Vatican Square, in St. Peter's Square, and you can always see a lot of pilgrims, a lot of religious people who are going, and you see that 90% of them are not Italian. And you always see, for example, a lot of flags, because they like to show the flags of the country where they're from. And I can see that a lot of these people, for example, are from South America or from the Catholic countries in Europe. For example, a lot of people are coming always from Poland. You can always see plenty of Polish flags, but then from African countries. Also, there's a big community of Christians, of Catholics in Africa. So even from China, for example, you have a Chinese community, or from India, you have Christians, Catholics that are coming from all over the world. Anyway, this just to close the video after this short disclosure. I want to say that anyway, this will push all the prices up. Can we call it inflation? Obviously, this will bring it as it inflation, okay, because all the prices are going up. And at the same time, by the way we calculate, for example, the GDP, obviously, because this is going to increase the GDP of Italy in general. Then if we take only Rome area, this will bring the Rome GDP to skyrocket. But also because the fact that there is this inflation and the prices are higher, obviously this will make it even a higher GDP. So anyway, I go from a kind of spiritual and religious topic. Anyway, I'll try, don't get disappointed. I'm only trying to understand also the economical dynamics that this event will bring now to Italy. Apart what religion we profess, I repeat, I respect everyone. And so, my friends, I really hope it's gonna be a lovely 2025. Hopefully the mess in the world is gonna stop. So I'm always for peace, for talks, and from understanding each other. I love always to share my opinion with people who are not thinking exactly like me, because I'm always ready to listen. I always have something to learn. Even if I might think something in a different way, even if I might have different thoughts, but I'm always open-minded because maybe there's something from someone else's voice that I don't know, and I'm always ready to listen because I will never stop learning in my life. Okay, my friends, so after this video, this one-to-one disappointment on Saturday, so I wish you a lovely day. I hope you really enjoyed Christmas with family, with friends, with relatives. And so I'll see you to my next video here on Italy, A Place to Love YouTube channel. Bye, my friends, from Antonio. Have a good one. Bye.